And here we are. We've got our next session that's about to start with product design team. And we have Greg Robinson, product designer. And we also have our famous senior product development manager, Mike Sobaski. Everyone has heard Mike's name everywhere with all of our awesome products that we have. And everyone sees and uses Greg's products that from our product design team. So thank you so much and joining our event today.
Of course, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
So if you don't mind, it would be great to actually, we go through all these sessions and I forget that there's people that join and unjoin. So welcome to the Wyze Career Day. Thank you so much for joining our event. This is our session for the product design team here at Wyze. We have our careerday@wyze.com email alias. Feel free to send questions there. I know there's a lot of questions through chat as well. Gwendolyn is sending in links. So please do feel free to send us questions in our Google form. You can also see our career opportunities through wyze.com/careers. If you don't see an opportunity open, please go ahead and select the general opportunity that's there and submit your resume. So that way we have it in our applicant tracking system. So I'm going to go ahead and have Greg and Mike introduce themselves.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen.
First off, Greg, I'm loving the mustache. That's new.
This is the work from home mustache and beard.
Yeah, I like it. Hey everybody, my name's Mike. As Karen said, I'm a Senior Director of Product Development here at Wyze. Kind of an imposter today. I'm not really on the product design team, but I work obviously very, very closely with them. As Kim and Steve said in the earlier session, product management.
You're mixing it up in Figma.
I do. I like to play designer. I like to play on product design teams sometimes. So I'm going to definitely let Greg do most of the talking today, but just a very, very brief intro to who I am and kind of how I ended up at Wyze. I came from Amazon before Wyze and actually was working with Dave Crosby, who is one of our co-founders if you joined that session. And when he left Amazon and was one of the founders of Wyze, we kept in touch, and eventually he asked me to come join. And at that point I really wasn't too certain, but when I came in and learned more about the company, met the rest of the co-founders, and then especially had a conversation with our CEO Yoon, I started to understand the potential of how big this could be as a company, and the impact that the product was having on users' lives. And that was when we just had WyzeCam, and so it's an incredibly exciting concept to be able to be working on products and services and experiences and designing things that are used by millions of customers. So I've been at the company now for about 2.5 years. I work very closely with Greg and our design team, so I'll let him take it from there.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. So as he said, and as Karen said, my name is Greg Robinson. I'm a product designer here at Wyze. I've been with Wyze for a little over a year now. Short version of the road that brought me here was I used to be at another startup, a little bit smaller company. But I was really looking for a place where the team truly cared about their users. Like, it wasn't just a business. It was also about kind of a friendship and working together with our customers and our users to build the best products and best experience we can. So that part of Wyze really resonated with me. Always striving to be transparent, even when things are difficult, like delivering that possible experience being like the #1 priority has always been something that I really, really admire about Wyze and what brought me here in the first place. So working as a product designer here, this takes me all over the app experience. So we have different designers here at the company, but I'm on the app team. So anything from app-wide features like notifications and messages, all the way to individual product experiences like the camera page or the sensor pages, or the setup flow, for each of you who've set up a device. I've had a hand in how that works in the app. And this obviously involves working closely with anywhere from PMs to engineers to research to marketing. And this all depends on the feature and the stage of that feature or the stage of the product. So on a day-to-day basis, this can mean either sketching or wireframing or managing our component library, prototyping, or kind of polishing up those final designs. Really just depends on the stage of the feature or the product. And a lot of days, this actually includes a mix of these because we're working on different projects simultaneously. So we'll, maybe go from wireframing in the morning to polishing some high fidelity designs in the afternoon. So beyond my specific role, our team consists of 4 members, where we have a head of design and then 3 product designers. And this really means that we each hold a lot of responsibility. Like you have a big impact here. I've talked to designers, and I know friends of mine that are designers at those larger companies, where you kind of get a subset of a feature, and you're really become an expert on that super small piece of it. But here with an app design team of 4, you have an enormous amount of responsibility and enormous amount of impact on those products and features that you're working on. So our job ultimately is to craft a simple, intuitive, and delightful experience. And this even when it comes to complex problems and products. So that's obviously a lot easier said than done, but that's what we strive to do every day. And beyond our team, like I said earlier, we have other designers working on e-commerce and marketing as well that we kind of touch base with as needed, depending on the feature and the product. And so I'm sure we'll get questions about this a little bit later, but I wanted to touch on, we each kind of at different stages of the product will flex into that researcher role as well. We have a small team that we're working with, and research has been something that's grown at Wyze over my time here. And we now have a team member who has transitioned into that researcher role and is a huge help to us. But in addition to that role, we kind of flex into that researcher role as well to do that usability testing, kind of concept testing to really validate those designs and the design direction and strategy as we navigate through alpha, beta, and finally product launch, and even after it's released.
Thank you so much, Greg. Really appreciate all of that. That's a great summary. And can you share with us if mobile app experience is required for product design on your team?
On our team, mobile app experience isn't strictly required. As far as like what we're looking for in a candidate, it's pretty open from like a range of experience levels to fresh grads all the way to senior designers. As far as specific mobile experience, that obviously is a plus, but with a strong portfolio or a strong showing in the web space, we can definitely see how those things can translate. Just kind of expanding on that to what we're actually looking for on our team. These people who are looking to join our team should be looking to take on challenges and seeing these challenges as an opportunity to help mature design thinking across the company, like not just within our team and not just among the design sessions, but helping to promote design thinking across the company to improve that process and how we execute that from an organization level, not just our design team. And these candidates that we're looking for should have a design-related degree or prior professional experience in design.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Of course.
Another question has come through. What are the differences and similarities in the work that product management, product design, and product marketing do in terms of discovering customer needs and translating them into critical to quality features?
That's awesome. That's a great question. I'll start on that, and then Greg, you can definitely fill in on the specifics of product design and anything else. So all 3 teams, as the question articulates, all of us have some responsibility in trying to discover customer needs. I think generally speaking, the product team, so this would be the product management team, generally starts this process by speaking with our customers, working with our researchers, and looking at the product roadmap of not just what are the needs that they have today, but what are the how do their needs potentially stack with other Wyze products? How could this work in a portfolio of products? And so the product manager is the one who initially starts to define what it is that we are building. So generally speaking, the product manager is saying, what is the customer need? What is the specific problem that the customer has? And we don't necessarily say exactly how to solve it. So it depends on if it's if it's the specific hardware versus the need in the app, the way that they interact with the product. But generally speaking, the user needs are driven by the product manager, and then Greg and we've worked together on quite a few products very, very closely. And so I might come to Greg and I say, the customer needs to do these 10 things, or like they have these five or six problems. And I might have an idea of what that's going to look like in the app, but ultimately Greg and I will have a discussion and he'll start trying to think of solutions to the problem, but then ultimately there's a lot of back and forth. So, and it's the same thing with the marketing team. As we start working on detail pages and talking about how we're going to frame this product to users, the product manager might have defined the product this way. And then through working with our other stakeholders who bring their unique perspectives, normally we're not going to go somewhere totally different, but we might find that the definition shifts slightly because it's a very collaborative process.
Yeah. So building on that from the product design side, Mike will, like he said, Mike will come to me, and then it's almost my job to be annoying. And I'm sure I've worked with Mike for a long time now. It's my job to second guess everything he comes to me with. Like, hey, the user needs these 10 things. Like, do we, like, what is this validated in? What is this grounded in? Can we get a little bit more in depth about why they need these things or how they're doing it today? Like, how can we improve on the processes that they're having to deal with today, and where are the friction points? And then, I have assumptions, I have assertions. Everybody, like all the stakeholders in the team have assumptions that we're coming in with, but it's also about validating these assumptions, working with research, talking to our users, not just from the formative standpoint, but through the process as well, because we could hear something and be like, okay, there's an opportunity for this product or this feature. And then if we just build it in a silo without talking to anyone and just among the team, then that's not going to be the best experience for the user, the customer at the end. So it's about that open conversation, me constantly questioning, and not just me, everybody on the team constantly questioning, is what we're doing the right thing? Or are we making sacrifices that we don't need to make, for X, Y, and Z reason? So yeah, just working very closely and collaboratively is incredibly important to understanding the user need through a product or feature.
Great. Would you say that it's true that I think first off, it's never annoying. It's always very helpful and it's enlightening. But yes, it is. It's pretty common that we'll get in a conversation and Greg will be like, but why this way? Or why do you want that? Why does the customer need that? And I think that actually it highlights one of the other big differences is I think with product design, Greg, you and your team is specifically focused on, like, your metric is very clear. You guys are responsible for holding that user experience and the design and what that experience is to the highest standard possible. And so you're laser focused in on that. Whereas with the product manager, obviously making sure that the user experience is wonderful is very important, but that's not we don't go quite as deep on that because there are other elements as well. But at least at Wyze, a product manager, like, I'm talking to our engineering team as well directly, or speaking with the factory on how we'll actually make it. And so there's a lot more stakeholders that a PM will have to manage. And so oftentimes you need your other stakeholders, like your product design team, to continue to push and advocate for the customer and advocate for the right design choices. Otherwise, you have a lot of other forces that are acting upon you that can sometimes push you in a different direction.
Thank you. Is human-centered design engineering required to work in the product design team at Wyze?
Hey, interesting you bring that up. I was a graduate of HCD at UW. No, the short answer is no. That's not a strict requirement to work on the product design team. A design related degree is required, But say you went to school for computer science, and then through the years in the field, you've sparked an interest in design and slowly begun a professional transition towards the realm of design, building out your individual portfolio, trying to play more of that like front end engineer, or transitioning into that design role, depending on a project or feature. If you can, provide evidence of that transition and that passion, yes, a degree is nice, but that passion and like really caring about delivering this experience, backed up with skill, of course, is really what's most important to us. But HCP will win you bonus points with me.
Thank you. That's great. So how has the product design team done with working remote and during this time of COVID?
Yeah, so obviously things are significantly different during the work from home. When we're back in the office, we have a studio that's all, the app design team sitting together. We've got whiteboards covering the walls. We can, really, really easily reach over and be like, hey, can you come take a look at this design? Or, hey, let's get up on the board and I just want to like walk through this feature real quick. And it was much easier to kind of get each other's feedback very quickly and informally, which is sometimes like where those best ideas come from. So in lieu of this, first of all, we have a daily morning stand-up where we'll quickly walk through, what we've been working on the past day and what we're kind of working on the next coming day. We've also increased the regularity of our studio time, where we all meet together and we'll share more in depth and get more detailed feedback on the designs and stuff that we're working with. Occasionally too, like we're a very close design team, so we'll just ping each other on Slack, like, hey, can you hop on a call real quick? I want to run through this design. And everybody is so friendly and open to doing that. We all know the value of getting quick feedback. You can get in a little tunnel vision session where you go 3 hours working on the same feature and you're like, this doesn't seem quite right. And you just keep like pushing and pushing and pushing. And you really just need somebody's feedback. So we're all open to that, to hopping on a call, getting in. We're working in Figma. That's the design tool that we use. So we can see each other's cursors flying around, and we can just hop over into each other's file and be like, hey, we can leave comments for each other. So, it's obviously not the same as an in-person session where we can just hop on the whiteboard. But we have been making it work. We have been, making sure that we're available. We're friends with each other. So we're always open to Slack messages, hopping on a quick informal call. Like, it doesn't have to be these formal, okay, once a week at Thursday at 3 p.m., we're going to meet for design studio time and you present your work. It can be more informal and quick, and like quick and dirty feedback is always something welcome with the design team.
Thank you. Another part of the question is, for somebody that is newly into the product design world, somebody that has not a lot of experience, what would you recommend, and how would you recommend that they would gain that experience?
I guess we don't have the opportunity to clarify the question with that particular person.
So for somebody that wants to work in product design that is newly graduated, for example, what would you recommend them be able to learn, to be able to gain some skills, to be able to qualify for an opportunity here at Wyze?
Yeah, so like I said, our range of candidates that we're looking for is very broad, from those fresh graduates with not much real world experience all the way up to senior designers. We have intern opportunities, we have junior design opportunities. That real world experience will come. It's hard to get that just getting out of school, especially during this time. But I would encourage you to apply. I would encourage you to be working on your portfolio, just showing that you're passionate, and having a portfolio that reflects that. And like, these are projects that I truly care about, not things necessarily that were like, this was a group project at school, I think it was a good thing to put on my portfolio. But no, like things that you really care about, that you can speak with authority and interest in. Like, show that you're passionate in design, show that you're passionate in delivering the best experience, whether that was for a real user or a hypothetical user. But just that they are your end output. And it's easier to relate to that, as somebody who owns a bunch of smart home products, who works with our app every day. Like, I experience pain points, so I'm passionate about fixing them because it will improve my life as well, in addition to everybody else. So yeah, just in short, showing that passion, but I would definitely encourage you to apply if you're asking specifically for Wyze.
Thank you.
I'm not actually a designer, but I think that I think that's actually one of the questions I've sat in on lots of interviews for people who are joining the design team. And one of the questions that I like to ask, and so even if you're interested in getting into the career, I think this is a question that I assume that you're asking yourself constantly, but is like, why is it that you like an experience or you don't like an experience? So, I mean, Greg just mentioned the fact that you use something every day, you see these pain points, and then you become passionate about solving them. So I always like to ask in interviews, like, can you like describe an app experience that you've had that either was surprisingly delightful or really frustrating, and then explain why was it better than anticipated, or why was it bad? So I feel like also just being able to develop that insight, it's not product design, especially at Wyze, it's not just about making pretty things. As we've said, you're integral to the product experience. So if Greg and I are working on a project together, like, we're going to be in dialogue, pushing each other. And so being able to display that clarity of thought, even if it's via a portfolio, or being able to say why you made a certain decision, I think starting to work on that and being able to like practice with friends or family, or just talking about things that you like or don't like is also a good step.
Thank you. The next question is, actually, part of it's a question. The product design session has been the most interesting to me. When do HCI in school as a degree? It was really important to focus on creating a layout and workflow that a user would be accustomed to. There are usability expectations for learnability, memorability, simplicity, etc. How does this position differ from the UX designer and front-end engineer mentioned during the e-commerce session today?
Sorry, that was a long one.
I can probably help answer this question. So
okay.
So we have two areas of teams that have product design. No, that's okay. That's okay. So there's two areas. We have our e-commerce team that has product designers, and then we also have our mobile app team that has a team of product designers. I would say our product designers for our mobile app team work on a lot of our platform, and our e-commerce team is more front-end UX for our user experience in our e-commerce experience. So I would say that would probably be the biggest differentiator.
I'm actually reading the question here just to go over it once more. So I think I understand what's being asked. That there are, yes, absolutely expectations for, what do people interact with on a day-to-day basis, that like patterns that they're already familiar with. You see something like the bottom row of navigation tabs across numerous apps. You see things like a floating action button, or you see things like action items in the upper right or upper left corner. These patterns, think there are pieces of our app where we want to be unique. We want to be delightful. We want this to be an experience that like this truly speaks to Wyze. But there are also components to our app where, it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about giving people the tools that they're already familiar with using to navigate through our experience. And what this does is it saves, the time that you're picking up and learning, how do I navigate through this flow? And it really highlights our key moments, our Wyze moments that really make our app and our experience unique and delightful. So there's merit to both. But yes, I do remember in school as well, pushing the user, like understanding familiar patterns and learnability is key to a good flow. But you also need to have that spark, that delight, that moment that makes you smile, and it's kind of like, oh, this happened in the Wyze app. Like that reminds me of that kind of thing.
Thank you so much. We have about 6 minutes left, and I don't see any other new questions coming through for product design. Is there anything, Greg or Mike, that you would like to add that hasn't been asked that you feel that would be important for our candidates and users to know about new opportunities here at Wyze?
Just in case anybody is interested, I have a rough overview of the interview process for product design, just in case anyone's interested in.
That would be great. Thank you.
How we navigate that. So at Wyze, kind of for all roles, there's that initial recruiter screening. So make sure you're on Karen's good side. Then there's a head of design screening. So I'm a product designer on the team. Our head of design couldn't make it today. But there'll be a screening, usually in the form of a call, a one-on-one call, and a portfolio review, one-on-one. Once that process is done, you'll transition to a group interview where it will be a portfolio presentation of 1 to 3 of the products or projects that you're most passionate about. And this can be projects from your past role or personal projects, but really being able to highlight what you did. So, it's very easy to work in a group project and kind of show the outcome, but highlighting what you personally owned and kind of the impact you had on your team. How did your team succeed because of you? What are some struggles and things like these are just pieces of a portfolio project to highlight. But being able to present that clearly and, show something that you're passionate about is really important to that process. And once you're through that step, there'll be a series of one-on-one interviews. And this is with anywhere from designers like myself to PMs like Mike. And this can usually come along with a design exercise where we'll have you critique an app or a little design challenge or whiteboarding type activity. Like I think one of the ones that I've done in the past is like, imagine that you're designing a new in-flight entertainment system, like targeted towards toddlers or something like that. Just, it's an arbitrary task that we can just kind of see how your mind is working. Like, how do you problem solve? What are the steps that you take? And then being able to articulate those to us will help us see, how you could stack up in a world with a lot of ambiguity and a lot of responsibility. So you kind of have to work with what you've got.
Thank you, Greg. We actually have a Greg-specific question here that has come through.
Okay.
Greg, does your role as a product designer cover both UX and UI?
Yes. So like I mentioned before, we have a small team here. At a larger org, there are roles like purely for interaction design and then a separate role like a visual designer or UI designer where they would focus on the prettifying or whatever, whereas the interaction designer focuses on that flow, what the user navigates most effectively. So my role does cover both, and I believe I'm seeing the question the second half. So how do you balance your focus on needs?
Especially how do you balance it when you have super tight deadlines, maybe from a PM or from somebody who just throws a curveball at you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things I did mention earlier was component library management. These are things. This is an example of something that takes a long time up front, but will save you an enormous amount of time in the long run. So the question is about, pixel perfect hi-fi screens. If you have 80 to 90% of the components that you would regularly use across a page or a flow in your library, it saves an immense amount of time and really opens up time to deeply prototype. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. If I have extra time in a project, is prototyping that experience so that the developer really knows exactly what I'm trying to communicate. And because that's not always clear, if you lay out a design on Figma and that's all you do, you leave it there. Maybe you have some flows like say, hey, this transitions in this way, but unless they can really feel it and play with it and know all the timings and transition arcs, this is something that's kind of hard to translate and would result in a lot of time down the road of back and forth. Like, hey, no, it needs to be this way. It needs to be this way. We're kind of fine tuning it through there. One more part of that, but we do also have team members that have a strength in visual design, whether it's graphics or illustrations. And that's something I definitely defer to them about. So we do have our specialties, but being a full end-to-end designer is a strength here at Wyze.
Thank you so much for both of you. Mike, Greg, thank you so much for joining us today and answering questions from our users. We really appreciate your time.